Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you own waterfront property down here in Miami, you already know that living on the water is an absolute dream. But, and honestly, anyone who's ever owned a boat or a dock knows exactly what I'm talking about. That dream comes with a very real, often intimidating responsibility, keeping your seawall from falling into the bay. The joys of waterfront homeownership, right? Today, we're diving straight into the daunting world of Miami seawall repair pricing for 2026. We're going to clear away all the confusion, skip the vague estimates, and give you the direct, structured numbers you actually need.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll hit the bottom line, figure out how to choose the right fix, dive into Miami's unique cost drivers, and finally, weigh repair versus a full replacement. Let's jump right in. All right, Section 1, the bottom line on Miami repair costs. There is 0 point in burying the lead when it comes to marine construction. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off and look at the big numbers up front. $20,000 to $90,000. Yep, take a deep breath. I know that's a massive range, but that is the realistic financial window for a typical residential seawall job in Miami-Dade in 2026. Whether you just need some minor stabilization or a massive full-scale overhaul, this is the ballpark we're playing in. Now, to put that grand total into perspective, you have to look at the size of the wall. That $20,000 to $90,000 range assumes a standard property length of about 60 to 100 linear feet. Got a massive corner lot with wraparound water access? Yeah, you're going to scale up. Tucked into a tight canal front townhouse, you'll scale down. When we slice this into a per linear foot cost, the gap in pricing makes a lot more sense. You're looking at a base rate of roughly $250 a foot for the minor stuff, like sealing cracks or stabilizing the dirt. But man, it scales all the way up to $1,200 or more per foot if you need a total structural redo. The final bill completely depends on the repair method, how bad your wall is, and how easily a crew can actually reach it. And that huge gap brings us perfectly to Section 2, choosing the right fix. Because let's face it, different problems require totally different solutions. Check out how this sliding scale works. Down at the low end, pumping in polyurethane foam for soil voids is only going to run you $40 to $150 a foot. But move down the list, things like tieback and anchor repairs for a leaning wall, that jumps to the $200 to $600 range. And then, bam, full replacement for an end-of-life wall hits that $600 to $1,200 plus mark. And remember, if your wall needs a combination of these fixes, your cost is going higher than any single line on here. The contrast here is literally game-changing. Catching a washout early and hitting it with foam injection can miraculously turn a catastrophic $90,000 nightmare into a super manageable $6,000 win. It's wild. So why does foam save so much money? Well, if your concrete is still structurally solid, but the dirt behind it is washing out with every single tide, foam injection is an absolute lifesaver. It fills those empty voids without tearing up your backyard, and it stops erosion dead in its tracks. Honestly, it's the absolute best proof that getting a routine inspection will literally pay for itself. Okay, Section 3, Miami cost drivers. You might be comparing quotes with a friend in another state and wondering what is going on. It's a totally fair question. Why is South Florida so insanely expensive compared to everywhere else? Well, welcome to the Miami tax. We've got a few local hurdles that just push marine construction costs way past the national average. Here is exactly what goes into that Miami tax. First up, water access. If a crew has to float heavy machinery in on a barge because they can't fit an excavator past your pool, the price skyrockets. Second, Biscayne Bay's saltwater is brutal, requiring premium marine-grade materials to survive. Third, the permitting process is a maze of city, county, and sometimes federal agencies. And finally, deeper water and unstable fill mean contractors have to drive sheet piling much deeper into the earth. And it gets hyper-local too. Say you're in Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, or Coconut Grove. You're dealing with softer soils that make anchoring a lot more complicated and expensive. Flip that over to the easy access canals in Pinecrest or Palmetto Bay, and the better soil and land access keep those labor and equipment costs way down. Then there's the red tape. Have you heard of the 5.7-foot NAV-MD elevation standard? It's a mandatory code for a lot of Miami Beach properties now. Basically, if you touch your seawall, you have to raise it to fight rising sea levels. Adding that extra height tacks on another $150 to $500 a foot on top of your base repair. You absolutely have to factor this in, or you'll end up paying to fix the wall, getting fined, and paying all over again to raise it. Oh, and one more thing. The 20 to 40% hurricane premium. If a massive storm rolls through and breaches your wall, expect this kind of markup over standard rates. Urgency is through the roof, debris is everywhere, and finding an available crew is next to impossible during peak season. Although, fingers crossed, your insurance might kick in and completely change that math for you. All right, bringing all those costs, codes, and conditions together leads us to Section 4, repair versus replacement. For most waterfront owners, this is the ultimate choice.
So how do you actually decide? Sure, patching things up is way cheaper up front, but, and this is a huge but, it only works if the core of your wall is solid. If the panels are cracked clear through and your tiebacks are rusting away underwater, a patch is literally just throwing good money into the ocean. In cases of real structural failure, a full replacement is your only true long-term play.
If you take nothing else away today, remember this golden rule of thumb. When repair costs approach half the price of a full replacement usually wins. Seriously, if a contractor quotes you 45 grand to heavily patch up a dying wall and 90 grand to build a flawless brand new one, the new wall is a no-brainer. And here's why that math checks out every time. A brand new wall resets the structural clock for 30 to 50 years. Another round of heavy patching, you're maybe buying yourself 3 to 5 years before you're right back at square one, paying construction costs all over again. A new wall just secures your property value and gives you peace of mind for decades.
So what's your next move? You need real hard data for your exact home. No honest contractor can quote you exact costs over the phone without seeing these variables. You've got to schedule an on-site visit so they can measure the footage, check the concrete, measure the water depth, and see if they can actually get a tractor in your yard. Only then are you getting a customized written estimate that actually holds water.
Which brings us to a really crucial final thought. With sea levels doing what they're doing, the true cost of waterfront living isn't just the house itself, it's the armor we build to protect it. So are you factoring the harsh realities of the Miami tax and these structural lifespans into your long-term real estate strategy? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning and protect those investments.